Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening as well, since we will be going to the evening hours here with this amazing continuation of the book Plenitude. Tonight, we will be studying chapter 11. This is the ninth session. Happy fall, by the way, right? It's we're entering a new era, a new moment, and it's not here. Okay. I thought I was on my computer. I was going to look for something that I had in there, but it's okay. As I was saying, chapter 11, session 9 of this amazing book. The last time we were here, we discussed this obsession therapy, which encompassed what we offer in the Spirit Center. What do we have to offer? How do we tackle our suffering in the Spirit Center? And we went through some of the process of self-healing as well that we had discussed in the previous session. So thus far, I changed over here, but didn't change over there. So thus far, we have went through quite a bit, and we're on the last stretch of this amazing book called Plenitude, Suffering, an Analysis of Suffering, the Origins of Suffering, the End of Suffering, Approaches to the End of Suffering, Altruism, Causes of Suffering, Pathways to Health, the Process of Self-Healing, the Obsession Therapy, and then tonight, Alternative Therapies. I would like to mention, before we go into what Joanna De Angelis says and what alternative therapies are, or the types of it that as we're going to discuss, I would like to, forgive me if I can't say the quote as it was said by the founder of Apple, Steve Jobs. It goes along as customers do not know what they want until we show them, right? And it's true with Apple products. We don't know that was, we are capable to do the things that we can do nowadays with the phones, with the watches, the computers, and it goes, for any technology that we have nowadays. Now, we have to be careful because that can take us into issues as well, right? Because we see so much being thrown at us, and, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do, many things, and we ended up doing what? Nothing. We ended up not really focusing on what the problem is. So I want to say this because we're going to go through several options, as Joanna De Angelis brings in this chapter. The second thing I want to say is I never try any of them. So personally, which I shouldn't be speaking here about my personal experience, much more what we learn from these books, I have not. I have many of you that can testify to a lot of the processes and therapies that we're going to mention tonight, and I know you guys can vouch to it. If you guys have told me, Leo, try this, try that for some of the problems that we have faced together, but I haven't tried, so I can't tell you. The thing is that I will try to do tonight is to bring some analysis based on what she brings to us in the chapter, as well as what we get with conventional science, okay? So Joanna De Angelis brings to us this idea of alternative therapy, right? Something that we can add or just add to what the processes of therapies that we already know. And we're going to understand a little bit what I'm trying to say later on. Or something that we just do utilize that therapy. But I want us to really focus what she says at the beginning, and we're going to connect to some of the other slides and some of some of the things that she brings as well towards the end of the chapter. She says the following: ignorance is largely responsible for suffering, for it generates selfishness, which in turn fosters attachment to and passion for people and things. If anything, I really want us to stress on this first slide over here. And yes, we will bring the text. We will be discussing, I would say, 90% of what she brings in this chapter, because it's important. Because without this, all the therapies, all the treatments, anything we try, Tylenol, Aleve, even a hug, it will not help. It will not help. Considering the impermanence of everything in a world of constant change, attachment is an illusion for halting the march of events and putting everything else on hold, preventing the emergence of reality. The impermanent is the transitory materialization of reality. Consequently, any over-attachment to form produces suffering on account of the inevitable changes it undergoes. This is analogous to trying to stop time, which is an illusion that will only frustrate anyone attempting it. So, attachment. The ignorance, the attachment that comes from our ignorance towards things and towards people. Being possessive. It's my husband's, my wife, it's this, mine, it's that, it's my church, it's my work. Everything is transitory. Everything shall pass. The bad things, which is awesome, right? Because we don't want to suffer for the rest of eternity. And the good things as well, because we will discover other good things. We were discussing this last week where, we always tend to analyze things, compare things, right? Which is okay. We do something fun today, and then we want to do the same thing at another day with different people. Guess what? It's not going to be the same. But because we take that moment and we compare with something of the past, we tend to evaluate one better and the other worse. But we forget the values that we get from it. And the values are different. So because of that, they're not supposed to be the same. But how much emphasis or what goodness are we getting from the two situations, right? And that goes with anything of life. That goes with relatives. Why is this, I'm attached to this brother more than the other? Well, you're comparing the two situations. Why am I comparing my relationship with this boss with that boss, with this instance in life to that instance in life, right? So we have to really kind of reevaluate when we are comparing things, which is good, but then we have to give the right value. But we attach ourselves. We connect to it, and we don't want to let go, especially when they're good things, right? Oh, my gosh. And then you don't empty your cup, like Daniel likes to say, for new things. It's always full. It's full for something of the past that you don't let go. And this creates issues in our lives. Thus, most infirmities originate in the emotions as a result of an energy imbalance that spills over into the mental or physical arena, harming the organic structure. The therapies of classic medicine almost always focus on sustaining the body by stopping illness and destroying harmful invaders. Great, right? But is that everything? In other words, we know what's causing, right? The root is right there in our ignorance, in our conscience, in our hearts, right? It causes, it troubles our physical body, one way or the other, right? We feel this pain, we feel that, we feel imbalance. We're also talking about an instance yesterday at work where we receive an email of the divisional manager saying we're going to have a conference call, we have an announcement to make. Usually when that happens, it's something really big that is happening with an institution that is huge. Many of you know I work in the bank system. Guess what? All craziness went loose. What is it going to be? It's like, it doesn't matter. When the time comes for us to get on the call, on the conference call, we will find out. It does not matter. And no wonder we have people with stomach issues, headaches, constant headaches, right? Tiredness, stiffness, because they can't wait. The whole body is now like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? It doesn't matter. Well, it won't matter when it comes, right? But we tend to overemphasize on things that we have no control. And sometimes we wonder, why am I suffering? And I'm relating here with the physical body, the stiffness, the stomach issues, the back issues, the problems that because it's easy for us to relate to it. And then we have to think, is it really my body that is causing this, or am I causing my body to react this way? With minor methodological variations, all Western medical philosophy is focused on that goal as being essential to health. Again, to stopping the illness. Let's block the illness. Let's block the pain. You take medication You don't feel a thing, you feel great. But what is the root of it? Right? There are solutions that Joanna De Angelis is bringing in this chapter, as we have studied and we have mentioned in the past. This book is not solely what Jesus is bringing to us. It's not solely what Spiritism brings to us, but the Hinduistic ideals brings to us as well. So a lot of the therapies is related to Eastern civilizations, okay? And that's the approach that she brings here. Now, before we go to that, what are alternative therapies, right? Well, what is this therapy? What is alternative to us? Interestingly enough, this is actually a passage from the National Cancer Institute through the National Institutes of Health. We can find nowadays that complementary and alternative medicine, CAM, in this case for treatment of cancer here, is a term for medical products and practices that are not part of the standard medical care, the conventional medical care. Now, we can go in here and say, well, it could be something that we have no studies, right? Well-guided studies. No, there are. There are a lot of studies, and we can actually go to the National Institutes of Health and find out that there are studies on different type of meditations, different types of acupuncture. And we will actually have results, and they show numbers. We'll see some of them here, but it's there. So it is something that is tested, actually approved, and there are some concerns as well that based on those studies that, okay, do this, don't do that. Obviously, you don't want to just do or see anybody. There are people qualified to do this service as well, this work. Standard medical care is medicine that is practiced by health professionals who hold an MD, medical doctor, or DO, doctor of osteopath degree. It is also practiced by other health professionals, such as physical therapists, physician's assistants, psychologists, and registered nurses. Standard medicine may also be called biomedicine or allopathic, Western, mainstream orthodox, or regular medicine. And then there are three ways that we can actually classify this. Complementary medicine is treatment that are used along with standard medical treatments, but are not considered to be standard treatments. One example is using acupuncture to help lessen some side effects of cancer treatment. Alternative medicine is treatments that are used instead of standard medical treatments. One example is using a special diet to treat cancer instead of anti-cancer drugs that are prescribed by an oncologist. Integrative medicine is a total approach to medical care that combines standard medicine with the CAM practice that have been shown to be safe and effective. They treat the patient's mind, body, and spirit. This is from the National Institute of Health. So guess what? I like to believe that we made some advancement on this idea or being open to the alternative, right? Now, since we're in this part over here, one of the things that we like to remind everyone is that in any case, if we open ourselves for any of these treatments, please do not put aside the conventional medicine. The same way we said the last time here that you come to the Spirit Center, you want to receive the passage, you want to go to whatever treatment you go, whatever religion that is, do not put away what we have learned from science. Because guess what? They're here. It's God-given. We developed this. There are a lot of craziness going on. We know we don't have to go there, but we don't want to put aside and say, oh, no, I'm not going to go through this. Because science is there for a reason, right? And we need them. We need the doctor. Bless the doctors. Bless the different approaches that we have and what we have learned so far. And the more that is to come with conventional medicine. So we cannot put that aside. And we like to say that because obviously we're showing different products now to one another, as we said at the beginning. We don't want people to think that, oh, you just leave that aside. So we have an idea. This is just for us to illustrate what this is. 10 most common complementary health approaches among adults. This is a 2012 study. As we can see, I see charts please forgive me. I see markets. I see different areas that we can tackle, right? We're not here to make money or to, promote this or that. But my point with this comment is that look how huge natural products are. Look how huge the deep breathing. I was thinking, really? And it's something that we hardly talk about it, right? The other ones, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, the chiropractor or the osteopathic manipulation, meditation, massage, and different things. I mean, we see that there are several options, and the good thing is that we are exploring. So when I said market, is that we are exploring these different areas of our life, because in the past it was something for, as we will see here, mostly for what? For our Eastern societies. Nothing for us here. And we see this development and these treatment being utilized as well and being offered by conventional doctors. Why don't you try this to minimize the pain? Why don't you try this to connect with a different reality of life, right? So now we come and give emphasis a little bit to what Joanna De Angelis brings in terms of what the Eastern wisdom is bringing to us. In contrast, Eastern wisdom has held for millennia that since illness are the result of the disruptions of energy due to cause examined in previous chapters, they must be combated at their roots. We talked about this. We don't have to go back. We can watch the videos, read the chapters. What is causing this problem? Will you find an answer right away when you ask that question? Quite frankly, no. Right away. Because in the same way that we develop the illness little by little, we're not going to find the answer right away. It's going to be little by little. In other words, you will ask today, and you perhaps find the answer months from now, perhaps a couple years from now. And you'll be wise enough to say, this is it. This is what's causing. My approach towards this, my issue, as we had read with Happy Life somewhere here, about not forgiving, not giving the option to let go of something that I held from the past. And now it's bothering me in my physical body. Let's look for the roots. Thus, there are various alternative techniques for acquiring health by abolishing such causes. These therapies are now appearing in the West, making way for eliminating or at least modifying suffering by restoring the person's balance of energy. Spiritist science, in turn, recognizes that all suffering stems from the misuse of free will. Therefore, the key to ending suffering is the individual's moral regeneration. And I put this in red in the next paragraph as well because we really want to take this home. If anything, let's take this home. Our free will. And it's something that the abuse of our free will, it's not something, or let's say, us trespassing our capabilities or our rights, right, and not exercising our duties. It's not something that we only do once. We do it several times. So it becomes what? A behavior, customs that we're all doing. Sometimes we think that, I'm the only one suffering. No, there are a lot of people suffering. And why do we suffer? Why do I work with these individuals that are this and that way? Ask ourselves. I have been asking myself that right now. Is that something that connects me to those individuals? Because I am I don't like to call myself or to see myself as a savior that is going to that location and saving those individuals. Not that they're the worst people in the universe. I'm not saying that. But why do I live in this society? What I'm trying to say is that in order for us to be here, we must connect some way. Sometimes we connect because we love great things. We do great things together. But in the level that we are right now, we have to question ourselves. What connects us? What feelings, what ideas, what ideals, right? In terms of things that we do every single day, repetitively. It's this misuse of our free will. And now we're reaping the consequences. Because now we have an idea. We realize we have been doing something wrong, but we have to atone for it, right? But it's not for us to be sad. This is just an alert for us to get out of it and wake up from it. This thesis extends to the problem of illness, as we have been saying. And then she says, without a corresponding moral change, any therapy used may modify the patient's physical condition, but not heal it. Because at the first opportunity, the illness will return or foster the manifestation of other pathologies already existing in a still unbalanced vibratory field. So we can go to acupuncture, get ourselves pinned everywhere. We can go to yoga, feel zen, right? Come back home great, levitating. But if we don't change our moral behaviors, it's not going to change. And sometimes we think that's just, great things that we have to do in life. No, sometimes it's just one small thing. Responding to life in a different way. For example, if we're rushed all the time, what would that cause? Number one, you're always tense. Number two, your environment is going to be responding to you for that lateness in several ways, right? Think about traffic, for example. You're going to be cutting people. You're going to be complaining about the lights. So life is going to become miserable. Just a small behavior of changing a little bit. I'm going to leave the house 5 minutes early. And I'm not saying that today, by the way, we're running a little late because we like to get here early. We're not talking, when it happens here and there. But when you analyze that something becomes a behavior, we need to change. We can go to all the therapies we want. It's not going to change if we don't change that behavior. Alternative therapies are essentially concerned with the whole person, with the entire complex that externalizes in the body and not just the body per se. So it's the whole environment. I mentioned to you last time I went to see my doctor, and fortunately enough, one of the very few moments that I had an encounter with a doctor, the person stopped and listened to me. Small things. It was actually side conversations, but through those side conversations, guess what? You always bring something that may be causing this or that problem that can give away some anxiety, some ideas that perhaps will show in your physical body later on. Do we need a doctor? Yes, we need a doctor. Can we do these analyses by ourselves? We can. It's also a process that we have to start. That we also need to look at ourselves as a whole. Not just that leg that is hurting, or the knee, or the neck. It's the whole body, right? And then she goes into some of the therapies that we'll cover, obviously, most of them in terms of what she brings, but they all connect to what we just mentioned, that it has to be connected with our behavioral change. Acupuncture, for example, regards the body as an instrument of an energy system and is thus non-physical, that is, less dense than it appears to be. This system prevails over the whole as if it were another, more complex nervous system sustaining all the delicate workings and the most subtle implements of the somatic organization. It maintains the mind, body, emotions, sensations, and thought matter interaction. Cover a couple more here, and then we're going to stop and make a comment on. Acupuncture seeks to use the physical body to reach this energy field and vitalize it, eliminating blockages that impede irrigation by health supporting forces. This energy system is made up of meridians, which are current of energies running through the entire body. It's interesting that Joanna De Angeli is reminding us that it's not the physical body, the essence, but something more subtle, us, spirit. our connection with it, right? It's not just the finger that is hurting. What's causing the finger to hurt? We go back to Spiritism when we find that spirits don't have fingers. The essence don't have a finger. However, we are connected with the physical body through our perispirit, something more subtle that she's talking about, right? That Eastern civilizations have already brought to us way before when, right? And now we're introducing our lives. We're allowing it to be part of our lives. The same way that Spiritism brings to us this idea of, treat the body, but treat the mind, treat the heart, your intentions. It is relatively easy to find and measure the energy-charged acupuncture points along the meridians. The tobiscope, a highly sensitive electric apparatus, can locate them, this thus proving their existence. It is believed that there are 14 main meridians and 57 secondary ones constituting the energy system. If there is any blockage in the energy flow of any imbalance resulting from a destructive, mental force and reproachable moral acts, infirmities take root. Applying needles at the acupuncture points rebalances the energy of the meridian and unblocks it. The generator system is rebuked and health is restored. So it's looking where is the concentration, where is the blockage, right? Because sometimes a blockage is what? If you have a pipe and you have something, water trying to flow, energy trying to flow, and you have a blockage, what happens? It stops. And that saturates the saturation. And the saturation will run someplace else. It's the same thing with us. If you have a clogged artery, what's the problem? What's the consequence? Right? So let us think about this. Let's connect with what is blocking me to have the energies of life to flow through my body in an appropriate way. All that we're talking about here, I'm gonna advance a little bit in something that we were gonna talk about at the end. But sometimes if we don't say it, we don't get it, even if we say at the end. What is this towards ourselves? What is Joanna de Angelis talking to us about ourselves? Charity. To be charitable to ourselves. Do we want to have, if we're giving a system, like we have been given a system, right? Do we want to create blockages, clog the whole thing? In any shape, form, no, we don't. And we're not going to even talk about food or this drink or this or that. Let us think about our thoughts and our feelings. Enough with that. Let's just talk about thoughts and feelings. What is clogging the flow of energy in terms of thoughts and feelings? Let us be charitable to ourselves and let us think. Ask this question. Last week, Kirsten brought the idea of our relationship with God, right? With our Creator, with ourselves, to understand ourselves. This is a question appropriate, right, for us to also ask, connecting with that. What is our connection with ourselves and trying to be charitable to ourselves? Because it's easy to say, I'm going to give this to that person. I'm going to be charitable to that group of individuals. We're going to do a lot of charity. But are you being charitable to yourself? And I know sometimes it's just, as we said, and Joanna de Angelis mentioned at the beginning, it's just ignorance. We don't know any better. But it's time for us to wake up and ask this question and to be charitable. Another practice of inestimable, thank you, I need some water, value is yoga, especially for imbalanced emotions, serious psychological problems, and a few other health issues. Knowledge of the chakras, wheels as sources of energy, in the body's vitalizing system has provided techniques for the development, nourishment, and balance of forces for maintaining the physical body, which the spirit uses in the process of evolution. So we see here that she's combining several approaches of different therapies, and we'll see the reason why. One of the things that we like to bring over here before we go on, that we also acknowledge the chakras, not under the name of chakras in the spiritist science, but the vital centers, right? And we study, we have seen it here, we analyze, and we hope to help the comers of a spiritist center who receive the passes to rebalance these points as well. In this case, as we learn from the Eastern alternative therapies as chakras. The chakras, traditionally 7 in number, are considered to be organs of energy. And we can see, just have an idea what they are in their names as well. The crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacral, and the root chakra as well. From the crown chakra down to the root chakra, they support the body's mental and physiological functions. According to the same tradition, the most important thing about the chakra is that it is called the Kundalini energy, also known as the sleeping serpent, which ascends up the spine, nourishing the chakras while being sustained by them. It is also responsible for energizing the nerves. When dormant at the base, it automatically tends to the organization of the chakras. Through meditation, rhythmic exercises, and various other techniques, the Kundalini is awakened and its energy can be channeled appropriately, attending to the chakras, expanding spiritual awareness, and fostering physical health, vitality, and the harmony of the nervous system. I read this whole thing because we see the practice of yoga. We see here the treatment of the chakras, right? And down we see meditation as well. That is connected with this ability of activating this Kundalini. That reading a little bit about it, it is actually concentrated in the root chakra. That depending on how that is awakened, if we can use that, it can bring a lot of good. But also for individuals who may not know how to deal with it, guess what? Can create some issues as well. So look for a professional, someone who knows, who understands a little bit. What Joanna D'Angelo is bringing here is that through these, the work of yoga, of the understanding of the chakra, as well through meditation, we can awaken this force that is within ourselves. But how can we connect with something that this amazing energy, right, that is so liberating, if we don't liberate ourselves from the difficult things of life, the petty things of life, right? Yoga fosters psychophysical balance and has become an invaluable form of alternative therapy. It's funny because this past 2 weeks I actually start redoing or stretching with some yoga techniques that I have learned a long time ago, and I stopped using it, right? And I was like, this is so hard because I haven't done it, right? And just to stand still in certain position, it's like, wow, this really, you really have to have a strong mind, a strong will to stand sometimes for 30 seconds. We're not talking about a long time. And we see the yoga practitioners doing things that we're like, wow, this is a point of, or a condition of life that I would like to get to, right? Just an exercise for, or an example for us to see how hard it is to, but attainable. I think it's attainable for any of us, for us to do if we put our mind into it, if we disconnect from the stiffness of life, right? Chromotherapy may have been inspired by heliotherapy, the latter consisting of the balanced use of the sun's rays, causing a salutary activation of the body's vital mechanism. For example, under the action of ultraviolet rays, 7-dehydrocholesterol turns into vitamin D, which prevents rickets. Its results are excellent when, under careful control, the time of exposure to the sun is increased for treatment spasmophilia, childhood anemia and asthma, various types of asthenia during convalescence, cutaneous tuberculosis, multiple dermatosis, and etc. Solariums have been shown to be effective against neurasthenias, neurasthenias, and etc. as well. So, different one: yoga, chromotherapy, solariums that you mentioning over here. The lights, how we deal with light. We have heard as many accounts of certain countries that perhaps go through a long time of darkness, how people get into depression. And we have the sun throughout the year, right? Some parts of the year a little less than the other parts of the year, and we complain. Oh, it's still bright. Go to the sun. Of how much you can utilize, right? I mean, you don't have to be exposed. Nobody's telling you for you to get, sunburned, but we see the benefits here. Does it cost anything? No. It's free, right? Using colors, chromotherapy has led to some favorable results in the area of health, especially in cases of mental imbalance. The color red is considered exciting, while blue is calming. Hence, red is used for melancholic states and blue for overly excited ones, as in cases of delirium tremens and the like. Chromotherapy, properly applied through a correct knowledge of colors and their effects, leads to recovery. For example, red light produces good results in certain infectious states such as smallpox. We're talking about lights. We're talking about the reasons why we see certain environments that makes us joyful, certain environments that just So we really have to analyze these different options that we have in our lives. Really interesting one. Homeopathy came into being around 1796 when Samuel Hahnemann began using it after publishing his essay on new principle for ascertaining the curative powers of drugs, with a few glances at those hereto employed. He had tested the new therapy on himself and his family for 6 years with remarkable results. Homeopathy is based on the principle similibus curantur, that is, likes are cured by likes. Through infinitesimal dilutions in which theoretically molecules of the original substance should no longer exist, the medication ceases to be chemical and becomes physical. Since everything in the universe is energy and matter converting to each other, energy resources should be applied to rebalance the physical body, which in its essence also consists of energy necessary for life. Interestingly enough, there is a passage, very interesting passage, by Hahnemann on the Gospel according to Spiritism. Chapter 9, item 10, yes. And I went back and I read it. And Hahnemann is actually bringing the message of us deeming ourselves not able to become a better individual because we blame the physical body. And he goes and he explains that what is the beauty of life if we can, and consequently, obviously, what is our responsibility, right? When we're blaming that the physical body is acting over us. Does it happen? Yes, it happens. We blame the body and we say the body doesn't want. Yeah, the body's heavy. Yeah, the body, to get up with this huge body, it's not easy, I'll tell you. I really envy short individuals at times because they can move easier. The center of gravity is, connected, through shorter limbs, with the other parts of the body. It's not easy. Gravity in itself, it's not easy, right? Making a change in our lives, it's not easy because we have done so many times. But we cannot blame the body. We cannot blame God, therefore, and that's what he said, for us not being able to change. If we're not changing, it's because we're not exercising our free will, as Joanna De Angelis says, hard enough. Being charitable enough to ourselves. We think that being charitable is that idea of poor me or poor this person. No, it's to be aggressive. It's to say, I will make a change, whatever it costs. Time, effort, telling other situations or other individuals, no, this is my time to take care of myself. And this is perhaps to stop and rebalance ourselves with one of these therapies or simply meditating. But we give the excuses that, I have to take care of this, I have to do this, I have to be the savior at work or of this situation at home. And what about yourself? What about our evolution? And this is not being an individuals that just think about ourselves, right? Because we have our evolution to take care of as well. Do we think that our mentors, while they're taking care of us, they're not evolving, they're not studying, they're not taking care of themselves? They are. Perhaps we are the school for them. Yes, in many cases. But they are evolving. They are taking care of themselves too. Do you think they don't stop and pray? So why we want to be the mentor, the savior of the whole universe? Guess what? You're not. We are not. And I include myself on this too. I want to take a moment for us to really envision this. And I brought this is more a step aside of what we've been talking in terms of the treatment. But I thought about bringing this in the past session. And I even talked to Paul about it. Our goals, to have a goal in life. And Kirsten again talked about this last week, asking us, what's important for us, right? And how do we do this? I want to go back for the suffering, right? What is causing us to suffer, right? And we find the cause, or at least we think that that's what it is. Because even if we think and it's not, and we do something good about it, guess what? The result will be positive as well. That wasn't the cause, but at least that will not cause any other problem. But I want us to think about this. The word is smart, right? In order for us to pursue a vision or a mission for ourselves. Because we see mission statements, vision statements for institutions, right? And we forget that is there for a reason. A group of people come together and they sit down, right? Really storm about what the company wants to produce, what the company wants to offer. And they come with a strategy. And on that within that strategy comes their vision, their mission, and it has to have 5 elements that we will see now, right? And we can utilize this in our lives. We can certainly utilize this in our lives. Once we identify, okay, this is making me suffer. So we're starting to create ideas of eliminating things, right? We eliminate this, and this, and this, and that. So now we have to create a goal. So I don't want to go through this anymore. So it becomes a behavior, right? We have to create a goal for our lives that is specific. So what do I want to do? You have to ask yourself, let's be specific. Give an example. Let's say I want to have more time for myself. So, okay, that's pretty vague. So let's be specific. If I want to have more time for myself, I need to cut the unnecessary things that I'm doing in life. Perhaps I need to wake up early, right? Have to go to bed early as well, so I wake up early. So I have to create a specific part of the goal, something that I can truly do, right? It can be broad that enough that it's not gonna be attainable. It has to be measurable. How do we measure? We compare. Is it good to compare things? No, it's not. We compare. Perhaps we can use this before January starts, so we can do our New Year's resolution, but something that is measurable, right? How can I measure what I would like to attain? By connecting with the past. I have done so much this year, but I want to do more next year, or this period of time, this past month, and I'm going to do this now. Since the idea is to have more time for myself, we can say, I have cut this, and this, and this, and that in my life, and I have this much time now compared to the past, right? You have to measure. Otherwise, you don't have a way to guide yourself, right? You don't have that lever that will guide yourself. It has to be aggressive, right? In the business world, they love to use this word aggressive, right? And I'm going to continue to use that word aggressive here as well. Because when we think that aggressive is just hitting things, being really bad at things or hurting other people, no, it's not that. Aggressive is something that it will create discomfort. Because if it's something that you're already doing, guess what? It's no go. It's not going to bring any change. It's going to be uncomfortable at the beginning. And then once you master it, once you see results, guess what? You see the positive behind it, right? It has to be realistic. It cannot be that tomorrow I will be Divaldo Franco. No, it's not going to happen, right? Since we're using, Divaldo and Joana de Angelis here to bring this talk, it cannot be. It has to be what? What are the things that is causing in my life that it does not allow me to become a better human being, a better spiritist, a better husband, wife, son, or daughter, right? What is blocking me from becoming a better individual? And then you take steps. I'm going to reach this step first. Once I conquer it, I will look into a more realistic one. Because right now I cannot be here. I'll try to get myself down here, right? Last one, it's time bound. You have to promise yourself, by this date, I want to be at this position. By this date, in 2 years from now, I want to be free of this problem. And it's doable. So how do we apply this? What does this have to do? How do we apply this with this idea of therapies? Choose something that you believe that's going to help you in connection with the treatment that we have mentioned here, as Joana de Angelis mentions, of the Spiritist Center, the conventional science that you have to go to the doctor, you have to check yourself, right? But on a day-to-day basis, whatever you choose, whether it's acupuncture, whether it is meditation, whatever it is, be specific. Go into it with an open heart to make a change. That this, let's say a month from now or 2 months from now, you can go back and say, this is how I evolved from this situation, and these are the results. And I'm delivering to myself. I'm not asking this for, Louisio to do it. I'm asking myself to do this. And it's a commitment both for ourselves. It's an example of being charitable to ourselves. To finalize, with these ideas now that we brought, Joana de Angelis says, alternative therapies are multiplying psychobiophysics, past life therapy, psychic and mediumistic surgeries, hypnosis, phytotherapy, flower therapy, and crystal therapy, among others, are working for the health and rebalancing of the individual and the decline and even disappearance of suffering on earth. Here's the closing remark that she brings to us. While acknowledging their invaluable contribution, we cannot forget that it is in the moral transformation of the individual for the better by means of charity, as prescribed by Spiritism and supported on the concept of Christ, who told those whom he healed to stop sinning, or something worse would happen to them. That real healing occurs and suffering is mitigated, giving way to peace and psycho-physical balance. Charitable. And once more, I would like to bring this idea before we close and we pass the word for us to make comments and questions, that it's not being charitable to others only. It's being charitable to ourselves. Do unto others as we wish, as it is done unto us, right? So one is a consequence of the other. You have to prove to yourself that this and this and that in your life is charitable to you, apply to yourself, and then you show it to others, and you wish that others will do the same unto you. So one is the being, as you wish to be done unto you is not a consequence, is the main, right? Is the core, the base of everything. So this idea of being charitable is for ourselves. So we would like to ask everyone to choose. Remember the remark, right, that we brought at the beginning. There are many things for us to go after, many options, many treatments. But do we want to do everything? No. Choose something that will be appropriate to you. You can try different things, but obviously we don't want to do everything at the same time. And we really have to focus on a physical and mind change for ourselves in conjunction with these therapies as well. Otherwise, as we have seen here, as we have, Joanna DeAngelo has mentioned in many, many times, if we don't change, it's not going to do anything. It's the same as having the Advil, the Aleve, whatever you want to take, painkiller that you're taking, but you're doing the same things. You're eating the same things, right? You take heartburn medicine, something, whatever over the counter. That alleviates, but 5 hours from now, you're going to eat something that is going to upset your stomach again. Perhaps the same thing that you had the night before. Oh, it's so good. Guess what? You pay the price again, right? So this is the idea, is for us to focus on something that is attainable, right? Measurable, as we said, and think about the future. Be a visionary. How do I want to see myself within a year from now? And it's beautiful when we talk about in Spiritism, what we're going to be, centuries from now, But before we get there, let's be realistic. Let's find something that we can tackle this time. Look at our resources, one another. We have people of the medical field here, other individuals who know a lot of other things, right? Just the fact that we are together, it's a beautiful resource already, right? That listen to this and try and understand this message as well. So that's something that we can accomplish together. And we have the Spiritist Center, as we mentioned last week. We would like to invite everyone, before we pass to the questions and comments, that next month we will be talking about suffering in the face of death. This is really interesting. I bring this before we end because there are certain things that we cannot change, which is getting to an age, going through situations that we don't know, right? That perhaps will be hard. And this is for myself as well, because why is Joanna DeAngelo putting this chapter right after, towards the end, right? Where we talk about therapies, but there are certain things that we cannot change. And suffering in the face of death is inevitable. The before, the during, and the after, obviously, that we go back to our true home. But let us think about this. To me, it's liberating. Why? What can we do so we suffer less? Right? What can we do that if we suffer, we are in a state of mind and body, not only ourselves, but we are creating this environment for ourselves as well, that others are not suffering. That we will be taking this suffering as an enlightenment, as a moment for us to grow. And then when we get to the other side, we don't feel sad that we could have taken that moment with different lenses. So let us think about this. It's really important that we apply even these therapies to these moments too, before it happens again. On that note, let us open for some questions, some comments. If I cannot answer, I'll sit down, we'll read the book together again, and we try to find the answers. Kirsten.
So I'm not sure on which slide this is on, but on page 120 of this chapter, she says, Spiritist science in turn recognizes that all suffering stems from the misuse of free will. Therefore, the key to end suffering is the individual's moral regeneration. So can you explain a little bit more, or explain what moral regeneration is? How does one begin it? Oh, you just passed it. It was in red. Yeah. What moral regeneration is, how does one attain it, and where does one begin, and what does it look like if we're trying to obtain it? Because it's something that seems, it's vague. It's like moral regeneration. Well, okay, that can mean a lot of things. So what does that mean?
I would like to start with the idea of thought, right? Interesting. When you're reading a book, whatever book that is, you start reading and you try to connect with the book, which I disclose here. It's really hard for me. I have to read several times certain things for me to connect to it, certain, ideas too. So you're reading that book. So you start thinking, you start connecting. So ideas come to mind, right? Things are coming to mind. And you're being bombarded with several things, right? And you stop and you're like, okay, why am I thinking this way? Why are these ideas coming to mind? Obviously, the reason I said the book is because you're reading a book. There is a reason there. Sometimes you're doing nothing. You're cleaning the house and you're being bombarded with ideas too. You're not reading a book. So why are you thinking about that? What caused you to think about certain things? And now I want to take another step. With those ideas, with those thoughts, comes what? Feelings, right? You either react, meaning you run from it, or you attack. And that can liberate certain enzymes on you. You get upset, and then things go on and on and on and on. Next thing you know, you're shaking and you don't know why. What I'm here to say, that to me, and this is what I've been going through as well, this idea of regeneration is simply to analyze what has going through in your mind, what books are you reading, what are you connecting with, and replacing them. That is number one of regeneration. And it's interesting that you asked this question, because yesterday, as I was doing the final preparations for the talk, I read a passage of that book, Daniel, from Pastorino. What's his name? Sabedorias, Minutos de Sabedoria. And interesting passage was that about dreams, right? And I dream a whole lot. It's amazing how I dream. If I'm not a medium, but I dream a whole lot. And I remember, we were talking about this at home yesterday, where I dream a whole lot, and I remember I smell things, and and the passage was, do not let your dreams take over your life. That you dream of something, you connect with something, and you keep thinking the whole day. You don't do anything because you're just thinking about that horrible dream that you had the night before. And the same thing happens with our lives when we're thinking, when we're connecting with things. And we forget that we have the capability, we have the opportunity to regenerate ourselves and change that thought. Now let's take another step ahead of us, actions. Okay, you connected, you thought, and now you're acting. Okay, we did something wrong. What is to say that you cannot go over there and say, now I'm going to do differently? But in order for that to happen, you have to acknowledge that you thought you did something wrong, and now you wanted to correct, right? In that moment, it's not easy, because now you're saying to yourself, gosh, you really messed it up, Leo. You really did something wrong. Since you asked for example, you exchange words of sarcasm when you could have been a little bit wiser. You go to the person and literally say, I'm sorry, it was a moment that I shouldn't have said such a thing, or I shouldn't have, it was not even the moment, it's just that what I said, it was wrong. I apologize for it, I'll make it up to it. How we will make it up to that person? Let's say you're not going to see that person, or you're not going to give yourself another opportunity in terms of making better for that individual, because you're just going to live a better life with that individual. So there's not going to be a moment that you have to do something, but you're going to do with others. When people are sarcastic with you, you remember that some time ago you did something wrong as well. So you're not going to react. That is an example that I would like to call, and correct if I'm wrong, we all have our examples of regeneration. When I also look for regeneration, now taking another step, we want to think about the future too. Let us be futuristic, right? Have envisions in our life, right? How can I be more regenerative in the future? We live in a world of pain. We live in a world of despair. We live in a world of everything is being bombarded us in a negative way, right? There's no positive. Just the example that we brought earlier today of people being anxious, that trouble our environment. Think about it. Because now, everybody's vibrating in one way. Everything is subtle, everything is going smooth, and all of a sudden, because of a message, everything is like, okay, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You feel it. We feel it. What can we do in terms of regeneration? Settle down. You play. You go with the flow instead of also reacting with those individuals. These are simple things. We can all find different ways for us to be regenerative, right? Talking about the medicine. In the future, and we get this from the Gospel according to Spiritism, doctors will not treat. They will what? They'll prevent illnesses. They're going to look and say, look, this thought right now that troubles you, if you don't change, this is going to create another issue, right? This is the root right now of it's a little seed, not even a root yet, a little seed that is going to spring into something that is going to be detrimental to you and to others. That also is a regeneration before it happens. But are we there yet that we are foreseeing things before it happens? So I would like to hear from you. If that doesn't help, I think that would be ways for us to regenerate ourselves. And there are many examples that we can give, ways that we can change our lives that it will allow us to, classify ourselves as regenerative, right, individuals, instead of reacting and creating more mess in our lives. Anyone else? Huh?
In the beginning, very beginning, you said about the root, first start is the selfishness somewhere. Let me see, where did you say? Yeah, ignorance. Okay, so I think the root is our ignorance in everything. Ignorance in a sense that we don't know better, okay? We're lacking at this moment. So it's selfishness. Because I was thinking sometime that could be rebelliousness, but still rebelliousness, it comes from selfishness, right? It's a derivation, it's something after the selfishness. Because I'm selfish, I may be rebellious. I don't want to follow the rules, follow the diet, follow the GPS, whatever. So I think my question is, if I would like to now go to that set of goals that you put the qualification of those goals in order to cut 20% of my selfishness, what I would do in practice. Because if I see there could be something very material, like I would like to lose such a pound, would like to say something, have more money or more time, more physical. But if selfishness is my goal, okay, moral, so this is a moral part. moral regeneration. When she was talking about moral regeneration, I thought about this, is to decrease my vice in order to also replace by some virtues. Be more selfless, be more charitable. So what would be in practice? How would I would set a goal? So I think it would be easier for me, because of the Spiritism, is to be charitable. So although I'm not attacking directly my selfishness, I'm trying to go around by doing something charitable, hoping that in this process of doing something to others, I may decrease my selfishness, so my intolerance will be decreased as a consequence. My rebelliousness will decrease as a consequence of this. Perhaps, I was thinking, if you see some other way.
I don't see any other way but that. But I think you're doubting yourself. We would be doubting ourselves if we say, I'm going to do charitable to maybe be less selfish. Why do I say this? Because we have to be specific. The reason I said little changes first, huh? Yeah, Paul is behavior. Paul is like their behavior. Here's the thing. Perhaps we have to get to the root cause. And I'm glad that you brought this, because the reason I said, I gave the mundane example of having time for myself, right? It's because sometimes we're lazy, right? Where's lazy coming from, right? There are certain conditions in life, for some of us, that we'll never get to tell ourselves that I am selfish. No, we'll not. However, we will find that we are lazy. However, we'll find that we are not doing enough for others. But we're not going to have the guts yet to say, I am selfish. Now, baby steps, specific. Because if I try to say, I'm not going to be selfish anymore, well, that's too broad. So we have to cut down. Now, the bottom line is this. We're making a change. I agree with you, and I know you a little bit, Jasko, because you're very specific, and that's great. But not everyone is in that level yet. And we're not as aggressive. And that's when we have to get to know ourselves and say, baby steps. What is specific? What's measurable for Leo? What's to be aggressive for Leo? Realistic, time-bound, right? Isabella liked to say that, when you start something, you have to finish. You have to, but that's my reality. And guess what? Sometimes I hit the wall. And I wish I was different, but that's just my way. So sometimes I have to come to me and myself and to my ideals and say, Leo, is this really realistic? You want to do too much, right? And then we hit ourselves and we create more problems in our life. So going back to what you're saying, we're not going to get to that point, I don't think. Now, if we are at that point, can we be specific? Or are we specific, or being true to ourselves, being specific and saying, I'm going to do this, and that to be less selfish? We can. But again, there's a lot that goes into that. And perhaps your goal will be too broad that you're not going to be able to accomplish. So you take baby steps. You start changing your behavior, as Paula was trying to say back there, little by little. How do I get to this point? And once I conquer that, I reach that goal, I'm going to move on to the next one. Right? And as the steps, as you increase on certain things, guess what? Next, maybe 2 more reincarnations, we become mentors. Then we really have to be, selfless, right? To help those individuals. But I think it's a good point, Jasko, and I hope that answers your question, because not everybody is in the same level. And the main thing here is that we don't want to lie to ourselves. We get to the root, beautiful. Okay, that's the root of my problems. But now, how can I change this in reality and not fool myself? Paula, do you want to make...
Thank you. That was very helpful and also enlightening, because alternative therapies have really not gotten their full due yet, especially in this country. I learned when I traveled in Europe in my 20s that the doctors there were more charged, as you spoke about at the end, to maintain health. So there were more preventative practices, and it became more a lifestyle for the, I want to call it a client. Sometimes the word patient has other meanings. So I think we are making progress, just getting it integrated in this country. We have to thank Dr. Norm Shealy, who started the American Holistic Medical Society. He doesn't even like the words complementary and alternative, because they really are medical practices. And in a hierarchy, how serious is the illness is really what therapy do you apply. I wanted to mention, because I was reading in a Unitarian writing this morning, that today is the UN's International Day of Peace. And there was a suggestion at noon for people to meditate on peace, but we can still do that. And they also had an interesting definition for the word God. It was good, orderly direction, which is helpful. And I knew you were speaking on this topic tonight, so I wanted to bring these and offer if people are interested after we're finished and they might want to look at them or put some in their camera. That's what people do now. But these are charts that I bought, most of them years ago, from The Natural, which is a health food store that now has moved closer to here. It's catty-corner to that athletic center. And this one was particularly helpful to me when I was starting out with these other types of medicine. It was a chart looking at using drugs or natural therapies for a certain condition and giving a lot of specifics. It's not saying what to do, but we're better informed when we have more facts. Another chart summarizes homeopathy. Another one is herbal medicine. And the last one was a new one I found in Staples. It's amazing how you can get these quick study guides, since there are more courses being offered in these subjects now. So it's just to encourage people, if they're interested, there's some easy ways to jumpstart your knowledge.
One of the things that I want to point out, and I thank you so much, Paula, for bringing this, is that natural medicine is another area that is very, I mean, we saw the chart, but it's very well explored nowadays, and there are a lot of information, really scientific information behind a lot of natural elements that we can really benefit from. And sometimes we're just not informed. Well, most of the time we're not informed. The ignorance, again, that we don't look for, we don't read. It's just a matter of using Google for something else. Yes, 1 second. I'll get Daniel real quick here, and then we'll get to you.
Yeah, it's going to be very quickly. I like this topic, alternative therapy, because in a planet that we live in, our population, we have a subpopulation of people, and inside of this population that's not going to follow the conventional determined therapy, and we need to acknowledge that. The reason that we are in different level of evolution, spiritual and material as well, because some of people that I incarnate, they bring from past life some, majority of us, some conditions that will make their body different than others. It's necessary that we have an open mind to embrace different therapies. So there is no wrong therapy. There is appropriate therapy for the person or the individual or the population of people that needs to have those kind of therapies. So I think in Spiritism comes and make peace between what people that is pro to alternative medicine against those that's not in the alternative medicine. So because they put everything together and explain, Joana de Anjos very wisely, in this chapter that you just present here, she was not deny or against anything. She was just clarifying that those therapy is important and is an opportunity for individuals to really find healing. So the question is, what kind of healing we are looking for? Is healing of the body only? And I think that's the question that Kirsten asked about, the moral healing, that by consequence will affect the healing of the physical body.
Thank you, Daniel. It is true. And I commented with Kirsten last week about, after her talk, how well Joanna de Angelis brings reason into matters of the heart, right? In a way that is subtle. It's not, she doesn't deem this or that wrong, but it gives us the option with a great foundation that we can truly say, okay, this makes sense, right? It's not up in the air. She's bringing Eastern medicine to us in a different way, as Daniel said, making peace with the other realities of life. Because if we have made the advancements in conventional science, because people sat down and studied, they made effort to change, right? So we have to acknowledge, we have to be open for it. So.
Hi, I just want to get back to what you said, Laura. Paula, sorry. I just wanted to say that I was skeptic about homeopathy, and it's true, in Europe we do use it, especially for babies and little kids. And I didn't believe in it because they look weird. Maybe when he was sick, when he was little. So, I think there is something homeopathy. Homeopathy. That's all I wanted to say, to go back to what you said.
We have, as I said at the beginning, we have people who vouch for, who believes in it, and it has helped. So I think we just have to be open. When we're open, we have to get to the bottom of it. Do our research. Ask people, how is it? How do we, how can I apply in my life? But I don't want anybody to lose focus of who we are and what we really want for ourselves. Because sometimes we have thrown at us and we lose focus. What's my goal, right? That's why we brought this. Final comment?
Yeah, I think the homeopathy nowadays is very much more scientific level. We can understand better than when I was learning drug therapy when I was a student 50 years, 60 years ago. That was a drug therapy, so it was based in dose. You need to have that amount of pill, that amount of each 6 hours, whatever. Nowadays, because of the physics and the energy, understand more about subatomic energy also. Quantum physics, we know all the shaking. You are making resonance with certain type of frequency. And that may release also all the subatomic energy, that some that we know, some that we still don't know. That it has a therapeutic, effect. It is the ingredient, actually, because after all, we are all energy body. So now it's coming all together, actually. It's not anymore the chemical, the molecule. It's subatomic energy, where you don't make anymore the difference between wave and particle. It's both. Can be particle and the wave depends on where you're seeing this. So it's what the shaking, how many shake you do, and dilution, shake again, dilute and shake again. It's all energy. So it's more understandable now.
And this reminds us that we have to do what? Study more. Even Dr. Arakawa here is telling us things that we don't know. So I thought that was the last one then. No, just joking. No, it's here. Here, wait a minute.
Yes. For us to reflect. This is a reflection for all of us. So what we call conventional or alternative therapy today was conventional therapy 1,000 years ago. So right now, the question is, what we call conventional therapy or drug therapy nowadays, in a couple thousand years from now, is going to be alternative therapy or optional therapy or not therapy or obsolete therapy. So this is something for us to think about it, not to be stagnant in one kind of therapy, because we as a spirit, we evolved. And the question here is, what is pushing back that is not allow us to evolve? So it's just for us to analyze. No, I don't want to criticize slides, because as a spiritist, we can't criticize what science has advanced. What we do with what we conquer reside in the moral wish of the individual. And that's where I find it too. Spiritism is not worried about the matter. It worry about strength, our spirituality, and our moral evolvement. So if we don't have a good moral standard, of course we're going to use matter, money, power to make us suffering. That's what we have happening to us.
Everybody wants to comment today. Wow. It's a really interesting topic. Maybe we need to talk more about this, Paula.
I just wanted to say two things. One, that allopathic medicine is a blessing, and we should not discount it, nor does Joanna in this chapter or any other book discount allopathic medicine or say it's horrible, don't do it, don't follow it. It has its place in our lives. It has its necessities, in the same way that the way that I think of it as, it's analogous to when we reincarnate, God allows us to forget the past, right? So sometimes we need medication that simmers down some of that angst within us for us to spend time through our moral regeneration, or our moral, what was the word? Regeneration, was it? And working on our selflessness and working on being less ignorant and more charitable. So I think it's important. I just wanted to put that out there, because I didn't want anyone who's listening on the web or recorded version to think like, oh my God, I'm going to stop taking my blood pressure pills. Yeah. So yeah, but just allopathic medicine is still great as well.
I would be very afraid to say anything here in the front that I did not believe in. And coming from Joanna De Angelis, one of the things to exemplify what you're saying, Kirsten, is what happened to Nilsson and what happened to Divaldo as well. In the past, the idea of sitting down and do the visualizations that we do here, meditating in the spiritist arena was like, wait a minute, that's some voodoo stuff that you're doing, or this or that. And who brought this idea to the spiritist arena was Joanna De Angelis. She said to go and meditate. Ask yourself, talk to yourself in the mirror, right? Get to know yourself. Analyze your thoughts, analyze your ways of life, what you want, what your desires are. Meditate on it. It's okay to say you're doing this way, you need to change. Criticize yourself with envisioning a change in your life. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. So I'm glad that you're saying that, because for those who are following us, who will watch this in the future, the only thing that I ask is to be specific, and to be specific with a goal in mind, which is to change the root, right? To eradicate whatever is causing your fears, your troubles in life, our pains in the physical body. Because I can do all kinds of things. We can go and do acupuncture, we can do this, we can, take the medicine, we can follow a schedule, but if we don't change what's in here and what's in here, there's nothing happening. Yes, the ignorance will still prevail. Yes. So with that note, since our national, International Day of Peace, let us pray. And I would like to ask each one of you that peace can be many things, but let's be specific. Let's be specific. And if I can ask something, is that we're here for a reason, right? Perhaps we accompany one person, the other, whatever, but we're here because we want to get better being. We become better beings. So as we're praying, let us pray for one another, right? We all seen the faces who are here. Some of them are in the other room, right? Let us think. Let us visualize one another, asking that perhaps whatever that is, we don't need to know what the other person is going through, but we all want a peace in our lives. And that's what we'd like to do right now. We'll ask Daniel to put on the music. Yeah, can you please? Thank you.